As a computer programmer, it's probably easier for me to understand multiple dimensions than most people. Assigning and retrieving numbers from a multi-dimensional grid is common in programming, yet even the common computer user can relate to the idea of separate universes that are intertwined and one deep down. And probably the most fitting way to imagine the situation is to imagine our current world, the physical universe and the internet, the digital universe and the physical world. Distances are concrete as a result. Not all objects are equidistant. Some locations being farther away than others take a longer time to reach on the internet. The locations are websites, and to arrive at a Chinese website is as easy as arriving to an American one. An email sent from next door may take just as long to arrive as one sent from Tokyo. In this regard, the internet does not respect our notion of space. The internet can be indeed thought of as a separate dimension, a place full of beings, both sentient as in foreign forum users and non-sentient like search engines. It also has some semblance of space because the websites are separate locations. But unlike our world, these websites are all the same distance from you and from each other, meaning typing in abc.com is as easy as typing in 123.com, despite the fact that one website is a server based next door while the other is in Tokyo. Computers do not recognize time as we do ether. In fact, we equip computers with specific circuitry so that the machines will have some notion of our time, without onboard clocks. A computer would measure time by how many instructions it has executed since a certain point, unable to account for how quote-unquote long those individual operations took. In this way, does the digital realm live in a sort of strange time, having already explained how it exists in strange space? That's not where the parallels end either. With the right equipment, the internet can be accessed in Antarctica or any other part of the globe. This means that the internet realm can be tapped into at any given point in our space, as if it were a secondary universe lying on top of ours with any point in the internet accessible at every point in our space. A realm full of beings, some friendly, some not, some intelligent, some not. We fail to realize it, but through our very bodies and on a daily basis, pass whole conversations, songs and images in the form of cell phone, radio and television signals. And because of the prevalence of the wireless internet, someone may be accessing the internet through your body. The point is that the electronic realm or dimension exists all around you in an ultimately invisible yet accessible form. But a human can gain no pleasures or powers from this realm without an instrument that quote-unquote plugs into it like a cell phone, radio or computer. What you need to plug into the digital world is the same thing as spirit needs to plug into our world and identity in order to engage in internet chat or email. One first needs an identity. This identity first begins at the physical interface, which is your mouse keyboard, and monitor your mouse and keyboard. Convert physical motion into electronic signals that the computer can understand. And your monitor converts the computer's output into something. Your perceptions can handle an image. The second part of an identity is regarding who I am not. In the case of the internet, one creates a unique email address or unused username to distinguish their quote-unquote location in the digital realm from the location of others. This location of yours should not be thought of as such because your email can be retrieved anywhere, even Antarctica. So this location is something that exists at every point in the material world. More parallels follow the video game and its corresponding video gamer, provide us with another excellent example of not only identities and separate universes, but a quantum reality. Imagine for a second a computer character, let's call him Digi Guy, living in a three-dimensional computer world. As this character's learning matures, he starts to notice something strange about his environment. For instance, he discovers that he cannot break objects in space infinitely. Computers store information as numbers. As a result, the coordinate system in the 3D game will be composed of extremely but not infinitely small intervals. His world will be loaded with minimum sizes, minimum times, and minimum speeds. Like our universe has the aforementioned Planck length, our digital dweller will discover that objects and time itself will appear to tick by. DigiGuy discovers that if he stands at the right part of the map and face the right direction, some objects which are directly in his gaze simply disappear. This was more common in early 3D games. And just like our universe, there are aspects of the video game universe that are downright magical. For instance, after collecting a certain number of quote-unquote points, the gamer buys himself a resurrection and video game vernacular, an extra life and a video game. The damage caused by multiple gunshots can be completely and instantly healed by finding a first aid kit. After finding the first aid kit or whatever the game uses for health bonuses, the kit will simply disappear into thin air and the player will be instantly healed. Now let's turn our attention away from DigiGuide and to the gamer himself. In order to interact with the universe inside the computer, and thereby derive pleasure from the game, he must first have an interface. This is often a keyboard, mouse, or controller. Secondly, he must have an individual location assigned to him. Unlike email, where the user chooses the name, the video game decides where the main character's information is stored at. This location is typically stored things like coordinates within the map, the angle you're looking, and usually stuff like current health and how many bullets you have left. What's more, the video game itself must convert what is no more than a bunch of numbers into an environment akin to our own that can be displayed on the screen. Now that our gamer has an identity within the computer world, he can now interact with DigiGuide. He can now derive pleasure from that universe or play his game. But what if this game isn't about having fun? What if instead the gamer enters the computer universe with the intention of revealing to DigiGuide the nature of his reality? Imagine telling DigiGuide that his entire universe is stored on a rotating disk within a quote-unquote hard drive. Imagine telling DigiGuide that object whose characteristics are recorded on the other side of the hard drive may be sitting right next to him. Imagine telling DigiGuide that in order for him to experience you in your true fleshly form, you would be forced to put your finger on the rotating hard drive disks, thereby destroying his universe. Imagine explaining to him that his world is weightless because the hard drive weighs the same, whether the 3D universe he lives in is empty or loaded with objects and characters. Imagine banishing the growing notion in his mind that his world has a single random number, but instead, numbers that appear random and that his universe isn't even capable of randomness. Or did you, Guy? It seemed so permanent, so real. His world included a depth that no flat rotating disc could ever mimic, or so he thought. Objects that were far and proved it by being inaccessible without travel. Objects that were close and proved it by being accessible without travel. In his world, some objects were heavy and proved it by being hard or impossible to move. Other objects he knew to be light, and he proved it by being moved with ease. And as for the apparent random numbers, nothing more than a computer's onboard clock spitting out an endless series of numbers that are predictable to infinity. First digitized story is a good vehicle to imagine two universes whose distances and times have no correlation, and whose beings share different types of quote-unquote flesh. The story of Guy is significant because you are Digit Guy. It is we who live in the computer. You're on the inside looking out, so who's out there?